We're back here on the Bob Sullivan Show. We're on LateNightSportsRadio.com. Back here with Jameson Welsh, and Keith Grieve has a message for you from DraftKings.com.
Millionaires are being made all season long at DraftKings.com, America's favorite one-week fantasy football site. One-week fantasy means no season-long commitments. Play whenever you want. Got an injured player? No problem at DraftKings.com. It's like a new season every week, so you're never stuck with the same players. Pick your team in minutes, and you could be on your way to winning huge cash. This season, one listener turned $10 into $5,000. Another turned $2 into $10,000. And a new millionaire has been crowned nearly every week this season at DraftKings.com. You could be next. Imagine winning $1 million in one day just playing fantasy football at DraftKings.com. Get free entry into their $100,000 fantasy football contest this weekend, where first place takes home $10,000. Head to DraftKings.com now and enter promo code Spreaker to play for free. DraftKings.com. Bigger events, bigger winnings, bigger millionaires. Enter Spreaker for free entry now at DraftKings.com. DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
Emphasis. Great read, Keith. Guys, make sure you go to DraftKings.com. Check that out. If you want to call in, the number is 585-633-7487. I'm back here with Jameson Welsh of BelieveTheHypeNBA.com. Jameson, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Bob. Doing well, man. Thanks for having me, and definitely appreciate it.
No problem. The 76ers. Not too many times nobody wants to talk about the Sixers, but tonight has to be talked about, losing by 53 to the Dallas Mavericks. At one point, the score was 45-10. The Sixers, they've come out and said, hey, we're tanking, embraced it. And, I think there should start being a fine of $1 million per loss that you have as a team if you outright say that you're tanking, so that you can't come out and say that you're tanking. What do you think the solution is for this?
Well, my thing is this. When it comes to teams doing this, their first two picks this year, Embiid and Dario Saric, Saric's still in Europe. All right, so he's not playing this year. Embiid is pretty much out for this year. So their top two players aren't even dressing up for them. That's just not fair. And they're going to add another top 5 pick this upcoming year. So eventually you're going to have a stock team full of young guys that, you're pretty much stacking a deck. If the Sixers can ever pull this thing together, they may have something very special, but it's not fair for the rest of the league, especially, the competitive balance of the league is not really fair because you have a team that's pretty much saying, all right, well, this is an automatic win. Like this team may lose 70 games this year. That's how bad they are. And it's not because they're not trying or they're not playing good enough. They just don't have the pieces. And it's very unfortunate, but it's bad for the game. It's bad for the integrity of the game. The NBA is in a very good spot right now, and they don't need this. They don't need this. I think there's two solutions to this when it comes to the lottery. I think that if you finish in the top 3 in the lottery like more than 3 years in a row, it has to be something that you can't finish higher than 6 in the lottery that next year. Like there has to be a rule against it so it can kind of like deter teams from doing it. Or at the end of the day, just have every team have one ping pong ball. And whatever happens.
Well, and what about if you're make it an incentive? Like I know, if you're the Suns, it kind of sucks that you didn't make the playoffs last year. You came up a little bit short. But at least make it so that these teams are competing for. I know it does you no good to get in that 8th spot in the East because you get knocked out of the lottery. But if you get that 9th spot in the West or something like that, there should be like you get an automatic top 5 pick. If you have the best record of a non-playoff team, there should be some kind of reward for a team that's not a reward, but you're just making teams live in mediocrity if they're not really bad or they're not really good. Some teams just live in mediocrity, like the Hawks.
Well, the Hawks are a different situation. The Hawks have a lot of things going on. They have an ownership situation that's going to change shortly. They play in a city that doesn't it doesn't really help them out. The fans of Atlanta, probably great people, but probably the worst sports fans in the country. The Braves they've had a really good product for years, and they're moving the stadium out of the heart of Atlanta. So there's a lot of things going on in Atlanta. But the Atlanta Hawks, they're pretty much the 6th seed every year, 6th to 8th seed every year. And if they win, great. If not, no one cares. People show up, more fans of the other teams show up to their games more than the Hawks fans do, which is kind of crazy, but that's kind of how it is. So it's a weird situation. But personally, I think this is the thing. I don't mind teams being mediocre. That's what it is. But I do mind teams blatantly tanking and saying, hey, we're not putting together a great product on the court because, we feel that we can beat the system and get a bunch of top 5 guys and eventually either trade them off for great players or develop them and have something great for a long time. That's the problem I have.
As far as the first 2 weeks of the season so far, was there anybody who you were? I mean, I know with you, you don't get too high, you don't get too low. You ride the waves of the NBA season like a normal person should. But is there anybody that you've seen this week that you've kind of pumped the brakes on from what you saw the first week?
Well, I mean, it's kind of weird because there's a lot of guys that you really want to have caution. I think a lot of people always get hot and bothered about the first couple of weeks, people getting ahead of themselves and whatnot. I really gave him a pretty good start. Him and DeMarcus Cousins had really good starts, but they've dropped 2 games that they should have won last couple of nights. One at Dallas, one at Memphis. They lost tonight on a buzzer beater with 0.3 seconds left, so that was kind of rough. But, they've been impressive. Gordon Hayward has been impressive. A lot of the guys who went to that Team USA camp in the offseason have been pretty good. Chandler Parsons has been kind of disappointing, but for the most part, man, it's been pretty interesting. You really don't have a whole lot of surprises. I knew Klay Thompson was going to be good. I knew he was going to be awesome because, I saw him in the summer live out here, and he looked amazing. Him and Steph Curry's best backcourt in the league. So it's very good to watch. It's very fun to watch. But like I said, the season's only 2 weeks old. You don't want to get too ahead of yourselves.
Memphis now 8-1, Houston 7-1, Toronto now 7-2. Of those, top 3 teams, those 3 teams right now, which of those 3 do you think is for real, or none of them for real?
You said Memphis, Toronto, and who else?
Houston.
Well, Houston and Memphis are for real. Well, this is the key, though. This is the crazy part. Both of those teams can finish in the top 4 in the West and can lose in the first round. OKC is probably going to make the playoffs, and they're probably going to be a 6 to 8 seed in the West. All right, and OKC gives Houston matchup problems all across the board, and Memphis gives OKC a lot of problems, but Memphis would have a hard time beating OKC. So it's really tough to say. Toronto's is a piece away. Houston, if Houston gets the right matchups, they could probably go to the finals with the right matchups. We'll see if it happens. But, there's a lot of things that are going on, but I would say Memphis and Houston are for real. So
you're backing off your statement in the preseason about Houston not making the playoffs.
Yes, I'm going to back away from that because there's certain things I didn't expect. One, I didn't expect OKC to damn near kill themselves before, the first week of the season ended. And also, I didn't expect to see Harden and Howard play this well. I didn't expect them to play this well, and I didn't expect Trevor Ariza to have great first 2 weeks of the season. They're going to make the playoffs as long as their guys stay healthy. They're very top-heavy. They still have a lot of issues, a lot of roster issues, but they're still pretty good. But if I'm in the West, I'm very concerned about where OKC finishes. That's the team that no one wants to face in the playoffs. I don't care if you have home court. You don't want to see OKC come to your town for game 1 and 2. You just don't want to see that. That's not a good situation. So, we'll definitely see. I also like Portland a lot. I like Portland in the West. But out of those 3 teams that you mentioned, I like Memphis more than I like Houston because they play defense and they have a certain toughness about them that I don't think Houston has. But Toronto in the East is a piece away from being, in the conference finals.
Do you think the LeBron-Kyrie the early dust up, I still don't buy that was over a TV show. That was just bad, damage control on their part. I mean, it's kind of gone away, but I do think with these young guys having all this pressure, all the eyes on them, this team, I just feel like they're going to fold at some point. It's early, but come playoff time, even more eyes are going to be on them. They're young; they haven't been there before. I just feel like they're going to fold. Do you feel that way at all?
I don't know if they're going to fold. I wouldn't go that far. I will say this, though. If they don't learn how to play defense, they're going to fold quicker than people expect. I think that's more key than anything else. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love have never been in a playoff game. They've never been in a playoff series, so they don't know what it takes to get through that. That's going to be key, in my opinion. I think that's going to be a very huge learning experience, especially if they have to go to a tough team in order to get through round one. But for the most part, they're going to be okay, man. They have a lot of talent. They're in the Eastern Conference. They're still learning. There's going to be some bumps and bruises. There's going to be some learning experiences throughout the way. But they're still going to be really good and they're very talented. Now, how far they go versus expectations that are there, that's a different story. I don't know at this point. I don't know how far they're going to go, but they'll be okay. They'll be okay. I don't think the other stuff is a huge factor. I don't think it's that big of a problem. I do think personally, biggest issue is getting a rotation set for that team.
Do you think that Dion Waiters gets shipped out before the trade deadline?
If he can't find a consistent role, if he can't figure out exactly how to fit in by, I would say, Christmas time, then yeah, you'd have to trade him. They have some other pieces they need to get a hold of. They need to get a rim protector. They have a lot of assets, a lot of young guys, a lot of expirings, a lot of trade exceptions. They need everything they can get because you don't know how long your run's going to be. LeBron is a great player, one of the best in his generation, one of the best players of all time. But we don't know how long at this level we're going to get him at. Like, we don't know if he's going to be at a great level for 3 or 4 more years. Like, he may have another year like this, and that's it. Like, so you have to maximize whatever you have at this point in time and go from there. Because when you think about it, as great as he is, no one knows what may happen, and you never know how long your window is open.
Do you think a trade for Roy Hibbert, it was mentioned before the season started, do you think that's still a possibility?
I don't see it, only because Indy is they're so prideful of how they do things. They're very, very prideful and whatnot. So I don't see it. It wouldn't surprise me, but it would surprise me because Indy's very prideful. I don't think they'll trade in the division. I think, if anything, the Cavs will take a chance on a guy like JaVale McGee and hope that LeBron and crew can kind of settle him down and get him to work for them. I wouldn't do it, but I can see that happening. I can see that being the case. So, we'll see. That's a very inexpensive, thing. If it works out great. If not, then you can dump him next year. So I can see something like that. I don't see them bringing in Roy Hibbert only because I don't see Larry Bird trading within the division. I just don't see it.
The Knicks, I have to bring it up. But J.R. Smith taking the last shot last night. Carmelo probably should have gotten that ball in that situation. 2-7 right now. How much worse is it going to get before it gets any better?
So they're going to get more talent, more pieces in there. It's going to be pretty bad. One thing is this. When it comes down to when I think of the Knicks, running that triangle offense, man, it sounds good in theory, but if you don't have the pieces, if you don't have the players to actually run that offense, basically if you don't have 2 all-star players in their prime, it's not going to work for you. Like it's not going to happen. Like it's just not going to happen for you. It's unfortunate. Melo made the decision pretty much to take his money, and that's that. So I can't feel sorry for him. I just think it's a bad situation to run the triangle in this day and age because you know what? The triangle is an offense that you really got to have some guys that can play because if you don't, man, it's a brutal offense, especially for a team with that kind of roster. It's a very brutal offense to run.
Well, do you think it's more? Well, I guess you do need at least two superstars.